This documentary discusses real criminal investigations and unresolved violent crimes. Viewer discretion is advised. For more than 40 years, 5 families lived with the same unanswered question: who did this, and why did they vanish without justice? The crimes happened in the 1980s. The evidence went cold. The suspect disappeared into history. But in 2025, science spoke. This is the story of how DNA reached across 4 decades and named a serial killer who was already dead. To understand how Athen Walls escaped justice for so long, you have to understand the era. The early 1980s in the United States were a time before digital records, before DNA databases, before surveillance cameras on every corner. Police departments worked in isolation. Evidence was physical and fragile, and patterns across counties were rarely connected. It was during this time that a series of murders began appearing. Separate scenes, different locations, no obvious connection. At first, investigators believed they were unrelated tragedies. They were wrong. Between the early and late 1980s, at least 5 individuals were murdered in different parts of the region. Different ages, different backgrounds, different locations. What tied them together wasn't obvious at the time. No consistent weapon, no shared location, no known suspect. But buried inside the evidence, preserved but unused, was a silent witness. Biological material, collected, but impossible to analyze with the technology of the era. The cases went cold. Families were told the same thing again and again. There is nothing more we can do. Athen Walls did not stand out. No criminal mastermind profile. No media attention. No arrest for violent crimes during the years in question. He lived quietly, moved through communities unnoticed, worked ordinary jobs. To neighbors, he was forgettable. To investigators, he didn't exist at all, and that anonymity became his shield. By the time modern forensic science began reshaping cold cases, Walls was already incarcerated and later executed for an unrelated crime. The question was no longer where is he, but what else did he do? In the 2010s and early 2020s, law enforcement began reopening cold cases using advanced DNA profiling. Evidence once thought useless was tested again. Then something extraordinary happened. DNA from multiple unsolved murder scenes, collected decades earlier, began producing matches, not to a living suspect, but to a man already executed. Athen Walls. Investigators cross-referenced samples. Independent labs confirmed the results. The matches were conclusive. 5 separate murder cases, 1 DNA profile. After 40 years, the pattern finally had a name. Criminal psychologists believe Walls represents a specific and dangerous category of offender. Not impulsive, not chaotic, but invisible. He avoided attention, avoided repetition in method, avoided geographic clustering. This wasn't luck, it was behavioral camouflage. Experts believe Walls understood, instinctively or deliberately, how investigations worked in the 1980s and how to stay beneath them. No signature, no confession, no bragging, just silence. And for decades, it worked. In late 2025, authorities officially linked Athen Walls to 5 murders. The announcement brought relief and pain. Families finally had answers, but no trial, no courtroom confrontation, no sentence. Walls had already been executed. Justice arrived, but too late to be seen. Still, investigators say the case matters, because it proves something critical. No matter how long it takes, evidence remembers. Even now, questions remain. Were there more victims? Did Walls commit crimes that were never linked? How many other offenders from the pre-DNA era remain unidentified? And how many answers are still waiting, sealed inside evidence lockers, waiting for technology to catch up? For 40 years, Athen Walls was a ghost in the system. In 2025, science ended his anonymity. This was a serial killer revealed, not by witnesses, not by confession, but by time itself. Subscribe Criminal Verse, where every crime hides a story.